everyone, this is Grandmaster Damian Lemos here for iChess.net, and we continue with our King's Indian series. This is our third video on this subject. We have part 1 and part 2 as well. If you haven't seen these videos, I recommend you see them. You can find them on our channel. So today we'll see a game played between Ruban against Polgar. We know Judith Polgar. She played the King's Indian a lot during his career, and she's an aggressive player, so this makes a lot of sense. As we discussed in other videos, the King's Indian is an opening, or I should say defense, that is not only trying to equalize. When we play the King's Indian, we are also going for the initiative and for a dynamic game. So let's see, c4, bishop there, knight c3. As we pointed out in other videos, we can play the Grunfeld by playing d5. We castle, and we'll see another system today. White plays bishop there. If he plays e4, then we transpose to the main line. We have to play d6, and this is what we saw in part 1. We saw a Garry's game. But White has other systems against the King's Indian. He can try the fianchetto, for instance. When White plays like this, he doesn't want to play e4 because he needs this diagonal. And this is another system as well. The great news is when we play the King's Indian, we have flexible ideas. Sometimes we can play with c5, as we saw in part 2. We can play with d6, and this is in King's Indian spirit. We can play knight d7, e5. Depending on the position, we can sometimes consider developing our knight via c6. We have multiple ideas. So White plays with e3. Usually when he moves his bishop outside the pawn chain, then he continues with e3. Why? Because he wants to control the d4 square. He can also try playing with e4, but this works better with bishop e2. And having the bishop on c1 works better when White plays e4. Here, for instance, this is just a variation, an example. d4 is kind of unprotected. That is why White prefers having a pawn on e3. Here, even if he plays bishop e3, I can play e5, and it is tough for White to control d4. We can easily establish a knight there, and our chances are certainly not worse. So, as I was saying, when White moves his bishop from c1, he usually continues with e3, and Black plays knight bd7. We have other options as well. As I was saying, in the King's Indian we have other ideas. e5 is not the only idea we have, and we can also try playing Benoni systems. Here, for instance, trying to play with c5. If he advances, then this diagonal is open. We can even consider a Benko gambit with b5. So let's see what Polgar played. Knight bd7, bishop e2. Usually White plays bishop e2. If he goes bishop d3, the problem is one day we'll play e5 and he might face an e4 advance, a fourchette. Here White is not at risk yet, but one day he might be. So just in case, White is used to playing bishop e2, e5, this is the logical follow-up, White castles, and h6. This is not the only move we have, but it makes a lot of sense to target that bishop. After all, if we get the bishop pair, we probably have some pluses, because that position is potentially open, and in open positions, we like the bishop pair. We have other ideas as well. A move like queen e8 is possible as well. This reminds me of the King's Indian attack. I also recommend watching that series, where we have this same position, but the only difference is we see this from White's point of view, and we see White playing Queen e1 in this setup. Queen e8 is worth considering. Here, maybe Knight b5, we have to repeat with Queen d8, but that's not a big issue because we are playing as black. So let's see how Polgar played. h6, I like it. Bishop here. White, he doesn't want to offer the bishop pair for nothing. I mean, bishop takes, I can play queen takes. Then I go back to d8, I play c6, and I have a nice position with these two bishops. Sooner or later, I'll have the advantage. So, White plays bishop there. This is the logical follow-up. Bishop there, and knight h5. It is fair to say we created some weaknesses on the king side, but we have a big reason to do so. We want to get his bishop. So pawn takes, and now a key move by black, knight takes bishop. Can we take on e5 with the pawn? Well, I don't think we can. He has bishop takes e5, which is a well-known tactic in these setups. Knight takes, he plays knight takes e5. Unfortunately for us, we don't have any knight move. Bishop takes h5, and White is simply up a pawn. And the problem is we don't have any real counterplay. In fact, our king is a bit weak. So d takes e5, black takes on g3, pawn takes, and here I like how Polgar played d takes e5. This is the King's Indian spirit. We want to create a kingside attack. Knight takes e5 is also worth considering. Maybe if we trade a couple of pieces off, we'll have a great game. After all, we are playing black, so trading should be okay. But when we take with the pawn, we are being more aggressive. We are dreaming about stuff like this, a pawn storm. We also have the bishop pairs, so it's like we have the right to attack. Although I have to say knight takes e5 is also worth considering because this diagonal is open and White is lacking a dark squares bishop, so this is just fine. Okay, black takes with the pawn. This was a huge decision. White plays queen c2. This game, you can find it on a database. It was analyzed by Grandmaster Belov, and he says that after e4, which is a decent try by White, if he tries e4, we can play c6. And here, for instance, we have a King's Indian maneuver. Let's say he plays c5. I can try rook d8, but the main idea is what follows. Knight d2, let's say knight d2 or queen c2. I can play knight f8, and then I go to the d4 square. We said this before. White has to control the d4 square, otherwise sooner or later we'll occupy d4 with a piece. Here, for instance, I feel we have a clear advantage. Because of d4, because of the d-file, and because we can target his pawn chain with a5. So White tries queen c2. Since he hasn't played e4, we'll play f5, rook a d1. Natural moves so far. White plays knight to d2. And okay, here comes the key moment of the game. I should also point out, before we continue with the game, black played c6. It is not recommended to advance this quickly. I mean, I think we should prepare our attack before advancing. If we play e4, we are improving his position. Now this knight on b4 is a monster. Not to mention he can try a move like c4 and then our e4 pawn is at risk. I can't even play queen e7 because knight e5 is there. But my point is, my e4 pawn is weak. So this advance, I think we should be patient about it. f4 is a terrible move because then this diagonal is open. And this, well, we might consider this. The problem is knight h4. Attacking here, also this square is weak, and e4 is coming sooner or later. So we'll see how black prepares his attack. She plays, I should say, c6. White plays knight to d2. And here comes a great move by Polgar. She plays h5. Tough to understand at first glance, but we should also say that if we play a move like queen e7, we are just fine. White, when he plays against the King's Indian, he usually tries getting a queenside attack, and here he's far away from achieving that. So his queenside attack is kind of dead, whereas our kingside attack, it's just starting. So I mean, if we play queen e7, we are at least equal. But when we play h5, we are putting white to the test. I mean, if he doesn't take, then we'll play h4, and that means we open the king side for free. And if he takes, well, this bishop is in trouble already. I can consider this, and this move is coming. I don't see any way to stop it, actually, if he plays f4. Well, I can probably take. I would love to take because then I have this possibility of playing bishop d4. If he takes this way, I have queen h4. If I open that position, that's going to favor my bishop pair, so basically he cannot take on h5. And if he plays something else, as I was saying, we open the king side for free. Under this pressure, white decides to play e4, and we know how risky this move is from the positional point of view. So black decides to advance. This is a good decision because if we take, then he establishes a good knight on e4. This is not good for us. So f4. White takes. Can he take on h5? Well, now it's different. It is different because we cannot trap his bishop. But what we can do is win tempis and develop an attack. He has to go back. I can take. Here, for instance, despite being down a pawn, I make sure his king is open. His dark squares are terrible, and one day I am pretty sure I'll mate him on the h-file. Maybe bishop e6, king f7. Yeah, this is terrible for white. Even this move is worth considering. So we don't have to calculate much there. We have to realize we have the best practical chances, and our opponent is likely to make a mistake. So white, who was a strong player too, as we can see, he was 2590 rating. He took on f4. He realized that grabbing the h5 pawn was a bad idea. So we take. I think this is a good move because we have this move next. We can also try this. In fact, the computer says this is better, and after bishop takes, knight e5. Despite being down a pawn, white doesn't have any counterplay. He doesn't even have a good knight jump. So it feels like our dark squares domination is clearly better. But from the human point of view, taking this way looks even stronger because I'll have a strong attack on the c-file. White decides to take, queen h4, Well, maybe this is good too, because I also have ideas on the F file. I mean, trying to play F3 one day, and if bishop F3, it smells that sooner or later my attack should pay off. I'm not afraid of a counterplay on the D file, because worst scenario I play knight F8 and he runs out of checks. So queen H4 is also worth considering. White plays bishop F3. As the analysis says, this is not the best try. This was a bit better, and I feel it's because knight F3 is possible now, but I mean, even if he plays bishop E2, queen H7 or even queen H8, my idea is to play rook H6, and I feel he's dead. I mean, I don't see any clear way of stopping the mate on the H file. So let's see how white defended. He played bishop F3, knight F6, rook F6 is also possible. I bet he was playing rook E1 and king F1. This is not a happy line for white, but okay, at least he's not getting mated. So this looks powerful as well, because I have extra options. I mean, if I play the knight there, I'll get his bishop pair, I mean his second bishop, and I'll have the bishop pair to increase my pressure. So white plays queen b3. Well, c5 check is the only, threat I see. I'm not sure if I should call this a threat, but let's say counterplay. So king h8. I love this move. As I discussed in my attacks DVD I made, my masterclass Attacking Chess, as I discussed there, I like playing these quiet moves when I attack. When you're attacking, you usually try finding active moves, but it is good to recognize when to slow down and when to stop your opponent's counterplay as well. So king h8, I make sure white doesn't have any check, and then I continue with my attack. Rook fe1. He's preparing his journey to the queen side, but before he does that, we play knight g4, double threat. He has to take, otherwise we mate him. So he takes, bishop takes. I mean, with this position, with these bishops, we have to be winning. White plays f3. If knight f3, well, I take without thinking, because I open his king, and after this I have this precise move, queen h3. By playing this, I make sure the king stays there, and then the rest is easy. I'll mate him anytime soon. So he plays f3. And once more we see how great Polgar plays. We can obviously move our bishop. We can probably play bishop e6. And even if we lose a second pawn, we have to be winning, because by simple means we should reach his king soon. But instead of moving our bishop, Polgar plays an even stronger move, and this move is rook a d8. When we play this, we have a threat, which is rook takes d2. Also, we answer a threat with another threat. Instead of playing a passive move, we play rook a d8 and we keep the initiative. Well, if white takes here, we have rook takes d2. Queen f2 is a threat. If he takes, we win material. I don't see good moves for white. I also see f3 coming, so he's just losing. Maybe here he has to play a move like queen c2, which is super passive. Now bishop e6. And then I continue with my ideas. And he's running out of moves. He cannot even move the knight because the c4 pawn is hanging. So after rook a d8, white plays knight f1. And another great move by black here. I recommend you pause the video and try finding the move, or I should say the plan. Try finding it yourself. Take 5-10 minutes, as much as you need. What I'll do now is I'll do a 5 seconds, 10 seconds pause in case you want to pause the video, and then I'll continue talking. So here in this position, we can of course play bishop e6, maybe bishop h5. If we move our bishop, we keep our pluses, then we can play rook c8 next. We probably have a clear advantage, but he just played knight f1. That means we can sacrifice on f3. I mean, he has to take with his pawn, and despite being down a piece, the c-file is open. His king is in a terrible spot because he cannot cover the checks. So here we have this simple move, and white is losing. Why? Because if he takes on d8, we don't even have to take the rook. We can play bishop f8, check. There's no rook takes f8. There's nothing white can do. He has to play this. We take, and we mate him. So here the only real try he has is knight h2. I mean, if knight d2, I have bishop f8 as well. This is similar to what we saw previously. I mean, he's getting mated one way or the other. So his only try, when we play bishop takes, pawn takes, rook here, is knight h2. His hope is to cover the check there, but we play bishop f8 check. Now king h1 is the only move. This loses to queen there. He moves the king, I take on f3, and then I grab the knight on c4, so king h1. And here comes the move that Polgar saw beforehand, I'm pretty sure, bishop c5. We have other moves to consider. I mean, rook d2, I would definitely consider this move because of the mating threat. If rook takes d2, I have queen takes e1. Unfortunately for us, white has rook e2, and we are running out of threats. In fact, he keeps his extra piece here. What Polgar played is stronger. When we attack, we have to make sure every single piece participates in the attack, and bishop c5 is a great move, because apart from the threats we previously had, I mean rook d2, now we also have these rooks overloaded, protecting the mate on c1. So white tries rook e2. If he plays queen c2, we'll react in the same way as black played in the game. Rook e2, and now comes a brilliant move by black. He plays, again I should say, she played rook d7. Amazing stuff. We know the rook is overloaded, as we were saying. If rook takes, we mate him on c1. And after rook d7, the thing is, we bring our rook to the 7th rank. What else can he play? I mean, rook takes c7, I mate him. If he plays queen c2, well, if I take on d1, he can always retake. And, I mean, he has a lot of pieces for the queen, so this is not what we are looking for. If he plays queen c2, I can play this, and I don't see any way of stopping the mate on c1. I mean, I see this, but then I have rook takes, and after knight takes, queen e1. So, after rook d7, white tries knight a4, trying to deviate our bishop, but we play bishop f2. And now white resigns. Let's see why. If he takes, we have the mate. If he plays something else. I mean, rook takes, this loses to queen takes, and we made him next. So maybe he has to move the queen, I mean queen c2. But here after queen c2 we have queen takes h2, and I'm pretty sure Polgar saw all this beforehand. King takes and rook h7. White resigned a couple of moves ago, but this way of finishing the game would have been amazing. So that's all for this video. I really like how Black played this game. It really shows how to play the King's Indian. As I always say, this is an opening or a defense of initiative, of dynamic play, rather than trying to equalize. And the ideas of this series is to teach you the plans, and hopefully you get a better feeling of how to play this defense. I hope you enjoyed my work. Next defense we are going to cover is the Pirc defense, so stay tuned for my next videos. I hope to see you guys in my next videos, and take care.